So here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. Right now, tonight, some meaningful chunk of everything you've scrolled past today wasn't written by anyone. Not typed, not thought, not felt. Generated. And the estimates on how much keep climbing every few months, which honestly should be the headline on its own. But it's not even the part that gets to me. The part that gets to me is that we're bad at telling the difference. Genuinely bad. Worse than we think we are. Because you'd assume, right, that AI content would look off somehow. Uncanny. A little too polished, or a little too weird. And sometimes it does, sure. But the stuff that actually slips past us doesn't look strange at all. It looks average. It looks like the 40th version of something you've already seen, which, it turns out, is exactly what makes it invisible. We're not built to be suspicious of things that feel familiar. We're built to trust them. And that's where it gets, I don't know, structurally kind of ugly because of how this stuff actually gets made. These models don't learn from nothing. They learn from the internet, from text people wrote, images people took, all of it. But now, more and more of what's out there for the next model to learn from was written by the last model. So you've got this loop. Model trains on human stuff, generates content. That content ends up back on the internet. Next model trains partly on that, generates more, and so on. And there's a name for what happens when you do that. Enough times, researchers call it model collapse. And what it means, basically, is that each generation gets a little flatter, a little more averaged out, a little less like anything a specific person would ever actually say. It's like photocopying a photocopy. You don't notice the loss on the first copy, maybe not even the fifth, but you're losing resolution every single time. And eventually, what's left is just the vague shape of what a photo used to be. Except this isn't paper. This is the shape of human thought, getting slightly blurrier with every pass, at the scale of, what, billions of pieces of content a day. And meanwhile, and this is the part that actually gets under my skin, there's this other layer sitting underneath all of it. All these accounts. Yours probably, from some platform you don't open anymore. Mine too, if I'm honest. People made them, posted for a while, put a little bit of themselves out there, and then just stopped. Moved on, got busy, lost interest. Whatever the reason was, it doesn't really matter. The account's still there though, still technically live. Profile picture still up, old posts still indexed, still showing up in searches, still capable of being liked or commented on or recommended to somebody at 2 in the morning. Except there's nobody behind it anymore. It's not deleted, it's just abandoned. Which is a specific kind of strange if you actually sit with it, because we don't really have language for that. We have language for a person leaving. We have language for something ending. We don't really have language for a version of you that just keeps existing, unattended, doing nothing, saying nothing new, forever, technically present and completely absent at the same time. And what gets me about the abandoned account side of it specifically is how ordinary the reasons usually are. Nobody dramatically quits the internet, mostly. They just get busy. Or they get a new phone and never bother logging back in. Or the app stops being the thing they open, and there's no moment where they decide, this presence of me should stop existing now. It just trails off. No ceremony, no deletion, no closure. Which means the internet is quietly accumulating this enormous layer of residue that isn't really content and isn't really nothing either. It's more like sediment. A record of attention that used to be there and isn't anymore. Still sitting on the surface. Still occasionally surfacing in someone's feed. still capable of being mistaken, at a glance, for something currently alive. So now, stack those two things on top of each other. On one side, you've got content that was never made by a person, getting more common, more averaged, more self-referential, feeding on its own output. On the other side, you've got content that used to come from a person, still sitting there, frozen, no longer connected to anyone who's actually thinking or feeling or updating it. And here's the thing. From the outside, scrolling past both of them at normal speed, they start to look basically identical. A dead account and a synthetic one produce the same signal to you as a viewer, something that isn't currently anyone. The internet isn't turning into a wasteland exactly. That's not really what this is. It's turning into something more like a very well-lit room that's mostly full of things shaped like people, except most of them aren't anyone. And it's getting harder every year to tell which corners of the room still have someone actually in them. And if you follow that thought all the way out, philosophically, not as established fact, but just where the logic actually goes if you push on it, you end up somewhere pretty uncomfortable. Because a huge amount of what we call being online, being seen, having a presence, was always kind of built on this assumption, this background hum of, there's a person there. Even when you couldn't verify it, you defaulted to assuming it. The same way you default to assuming the person walking toward you on the street is a person, and not, I don't know, an elaborate prop. That assumption is basically load-bearing for the whole thing feeling human at all. And what happens, philosophically, when that assumption stops being safe to make by default? When the baseline shifts, and you have to actively verify presence instead of assuming it. That's not a technology problem at that point. That's a different relationship to what someone even means online. And I don't think we've caught up to that yet, not even a little. We're still behaving like the old assumption holds while the actual ratio underneath us has already shifted. And there's a psychological piece to this too, that I think explains why we're so bad at catching any of it in real time. Because the way we actually judge whether something's real online was never some careful forensic process. It was always fast, intuitive, pattern-based, built for a world where making convincing fake content took real effort, real time, real skill. So the shortcuts we use, does this sound like a normal person? Does this look like a normal photo? Does this account have a normal-looking history? Those shortcuts worked fine for decades because the effort required to fake them was naturally filtering most of it out. What's changed isn't our judgment. It's the cost of producing the thing our judgment was never built to catch. The fakes didn't get smarter than us, exactly. The cost of making a fake just collapsed to almost nothing. And our detection instincts never got the memo that the economics underneath them had shifted. There's also this quieter thing happening to the content itself, separate from who or what made it. Because when a system is optimizing to produce more of what already performed well, and it's training on a pool of content that's increasingly its own output, you get convergence. Everything starts drifting toward the same center. Same phrasing patterns, same structures, same hooks, same emotional beats, hit in the same order, because that's what got rewarded last time, and the model doesn't know why it worked. It just knows it worked. So the actual diversity of thought, the weird, specific, idiosyncratic way one particular person might phrase one particular idea. That's the thing getting quietly sanded down, generation after generation, in favor of whatever's statistically safest. Which, if you think about what culture even is, what it's for, that's kind of the opposite of it. Culture needs the outlier. It needs the strange angle nobody predicted, and the exact mechanism generating more and more of our feed is one that's structurally allergic to outliers. because outliers, by definition, don't average well. So you end up with this internet that's simultaneously more crowded than it's ever been, and, in some deeper sense, emptier. More voices technically present, fewer of them actually new, actually specific, actually someone. And I keep coming back to this image of it as less like a graveyard and more like a room full of mirrors reflecting mirrors. And somewhere in there, way at the back, there are still real people, still real thoughts. But the light bouncing around in front of them just keeps getting brighter and blanker and harder to see past. So when you're scrolling tonight, and you will be, we all will, and something feels just a little too smooth, a little too familiar, a little too perfectly shaped for you specifically, are you actually sure there's someone on the other end of it? Or are you just used to assuming there is? If that thought just made something in your stomach tighten a little, subscribe, because this is basically the whole channel, sitting with exactly the parts of this reality most people scroll past on purpose.